Hey guys, welcome back. Naj Kazi here. Today's video is about career development. This is the second part, a continuation of the previous video on the topic of IT certifications versus a degree. This is a finale in the series. So today I saved best for last. I will get into a lot of meaty information. You'll learn a ton about numbers. How much does it cost to go to a college versus getting a CCNA certification, for example? Public and private loans. What's the difference between the two? And what strategies can you employ to still get the education that your heart desires, yet without breaking your bank and without going bankrupt? That being said, I'm fired up. Let's roll the intro. Let's get right into it. I'm fired up. Today, I'm going to cover the following topics. How much does it cost to attend a college? That would be first. Second, how much does it cost to get a CCNA certification? Third, cost-benefit analysis. And finally, I'll give you a couple of pro tips that I am certain you will find very valuable. That being said, let me give you a quick journey. That right there is me, very curiously wondering what's happening on those islands. Let's check them out. First, let's look at the college island and let's look at Stanford University. We're going to look at how much it costs. First, it says a couple of funny tidbits. They, by default, think that you're unmarried, you're financially dependent on your parents, you're living in a residence on campus. You could be off campus too, but you're basically near campus and you're attending full time. Find that funny. Now let's look at the student budget. So tuition, $55K, room and board, another $17K or so, student fee allowance, about $2,000, books and supplies, about $1,000, personal expenses, about $2,000, travel, it depends. Overall, you're looking at spending about $78,000 on getting a degree from Stanford University. That's a lot. Now let's look at MIT. Tuition, $53,450. Student life fee, $340. Not sure what that means. Housing, $10,000 roughly. Meals, about $6K. Books and supplies, about $1,000. Personal expenses, a little over $2,000. Overall, about $73,000 to get a degree from MIT University. Stanford and MIT are the two most difficult schools to get into. So good luck getting into those universities. And if you do make it, get ready to spend a ton of money. Now let's shift our attention to a private university that I went to get my bachelor's in computer information systems, DeVry University. So what we're looking at here from DeVry University is that a cost per credit hour is $514. That's per credit hour. Okay. Now let's look at how many credit hours you're going to need. So assuming you're going for a bachelor's of science in computer information systems, you're looking at a minimum credit requirement of about 139 credits. Now, let's see how much that is. So the way to calculate the total tuition then for DeVry would be we take the cost of per credit and we multiply it by the total number of credits, and what we get is $71,000 to get your degree from DeVry University. It's a reputable university, but it's not at the same caliber as Stanford or MIT. But I just wanted to kind of give you a quick glimpse into the fact that it's not that cheap from either of those universities. It's almost on par. So, kind of an interesting insight. Now let me give you a quick bonus. There are two different types of student loans. You've got the federal student loans. They are the most preferred type of student loans because their interest rate is low. And then the second type, a very scary type, if you ask me, is the private student loans. And the interest rate on these is sky high. So you should avoid them like a plague if you can. That being said, let me share some very shocking and scary student loan debt statistics for the year 2020 with you. So first of all, here's the site that I grabbed this report from, Student Loan Hero. These are the good guys. They actually help students that are distressed financially, and they help them find different solutions. So it's a pretty interesting report. The links will be provided in the description of this video. However, what I want to draw your attention to is the fact that 48% of the borrowers who attended for-profit colleges defaulted within 12 years. That's half the borrowers defaulting within 12 years. Okay, default means you basically went bankrupt, right? You just couldn't pay off your debt, right? And that's a very sad statistic. Another very scary private student loan statistic: more than half of the undergraduates don't take full advantage of federal student loans. Instead, they end up borrowing private loans. And what makes private loans so scary? Let's look at that. So look right there. The interest rates could be as high as 14.24%. That is ridiculous, guys. Considering we're in the COVID-19 world right now, you're looking at a mortgage of around 2.5% to 3%, depending on your credit and all that. Contrast that to 14.24% interest on your private student loan. I mean, this is seriously like taking on a mortgage. It's that scary. So the reason I'm sharing this with you is to let you know that this is not an easy decision. If you want to go and get a college degree, this is something you really have to seriously think about and then go after it. That being said, now let's shift our attention to the CCNA island, because I think that's a very interesting island. Let's check it out. So the very first thing we're going to look at is how much does it cost to get a bunch of CCNA books, and how much does the exam cost? Let's look into it. So the CCNA, which is exam number 200-301, the volume 1 book is available from Cisco Press for $35.99, dirt cheap. And volume 2 for the CCNA exam is also available for $35.99. That's negligible compared to college, right? And the CCNA exam cost is only $300 to take the exam. Okay? And that's great. Now, one thing I want you guys to look at and think about is, when you want to become CCNA certified, in order to schedule the exam, you have to have an account created on pearsonview.com. So what you're looking at your screen right now, you're going to go there and create a completely free account, and that allows you to go ahead and schedule your exam. You would only do it when you're actually ready to take the exam. But while you're preparing for it, there's no need to do this. But I'm just sharing this additional tidbit with you, so when you're ready for the exam, you know where to go and what you need to do. That being said, and a really amazing resource called Cisco Learning Network. You can learn about the different certifications that Cisco has to offer. There are different communities. So basically, there's a community for route and switch. There's a community for data center. There's a community for collaboration. There's a community for security. You can go there and ask any questions that you may have, and you have world-class experts that hang out in these communities and they answer your tough technical questions. This can come in very handy while you're studying for your certification, but this can also come in handy in real world when you're actually working for an organization and you get stuck in a project. You can get expert help. You can also look at a bunch of completely free of charge webinars and videos. You can also go ahead and find a lot of study resources. Cisco has amazing PDF documents that you can download. Once you accumulate all the different resources available to you, coupled with the books that I talked about, that pretty much has you covered for the exam. And the best part is, like I said earlier, it's completely free to sign up. Bonus tip. So it's all good to have access to material that allows you to learn and, to read books and all that. But it's equally important to do a lot of hands-on practice. So here, it's a tool called Cisco Packet Tracer. It's designed by Cisco, and it's meant to give you real-world experience of creating networks. It's a really, really amazing tool. It's used by students. It's used by people that are going after their certifications. It's used by educators and trainers. It's also used by engineers in real world, right? They can create and simulate different environments. Perhaps they can create or replicate their entire customer environment in a packet tracer. Also, you can use it to create virtual networks. You can experiment with different type of elements within the infrastructure. And finally, the most exciting part, once again, it's completely free of charge. Now, that being said, there are other tools that are also available, like GNS3 or Cisco Viral. But both of those tools cost money, even though GNS3 is free of cost. But to get access to the iOS images and to get that access in a legitimate legal manner without, breaking any laws, it's pretty darn hard if you're kind of brand new to Cisco. Now, if you work for an organization and, or if you have purchased maybe a couple of devices from Cisco as a partner or something at a discounted rate, then you have access to certain iOS images and things like that, then you're okay to use them in GNS3. But if you can just, go out there, Google, and kind of download, that's sort of a gray area. If I were you, I would stay away from it. Instead, why not use a tool that's freely available to you? But one thing to keep in mind is it's a very limited tool, though, Cisco Packet Tracer. Okay, so you can only do so much in this tool. If you really want to learn a lot in depth, then you should seriously consider Cisco Viral. And it's not that expensive. If my memory serves me correctly, I think it's $199 a year, like under $200 a year. It's actually a steal. I think it's a great deal as compared to how much value you get out of the tool. That's enough on the packet tracer. Now let's look at CBA. Well, what does CBA stand for? Cost Benefit Analysis. So now let's do a side-by-side comparison. So when you go to a college, your average tuition cost, and I picked a minimum number. This is not even truly an average number. I ended up being generous, so I dropped the number. It's probably more like 73, 74, but I picked 71 just because I was feeling generous. Contrast that to the CCNA, $380. That includes 2 books, right? $36 each. And then if you add a little bit of tax when you buy those books, and then $300 for the exam. So to become CCNA certified, you're only spending $380. College, you're spending at least 4 years. CCNA, within 90 to 180 days. In other words, between 3 to 6 months, you can go ahead and become CCNA certified. Next, average student loan debt that you will have if you were to go to college would be $30,000. Contrast that to CCNA, where you'll have zero debt. Average payoff time when you go to college would be between 10 to 30 years. I mean, that's a long time frame. That could potentially be your entire career spent on paying off student loan debt. Contrast that to the $0 years for CCNA. Your average starting salary for college could be anywhere between $73,000 to $78,000. Okay, so I just picked a lower number. On the CCNA side of the house, you're looking at an average salary of $75,000. So to me, guys, it's a no-brainer if you really think about it, that with the least amount of time spent, you can get maximum benefit for your buck. Now, that being said, there are certain professions, like you can't become a lawyer without going to college. You can't become a doctor without going to college. So there are certain professions where you have to go to college. So I'm not suggesting college is not for everyone. But what I am suggesting is that if you are going to get into IT, then there are better ways of getting into information technology rather than paying ridiculous amount of money to these colleges. Another thing that I want you to keep in mind is both degree and certs have an expiration date. Okay, they have a shelf life. When you get a degree, typically your shelf life is going to be around 10 years, but I have a suspicion that over time this is going to get more compressed, more like 7 years or maybe even 5 years, okay? Whereas with certifications, on average, every 3 years, you're expected to go get or recertify your certification. Like CCNA, for example, every 3 years you have to recertify. Otherwise, your CCNA certification expires. And to me, that's a good thing because in the world of technology, you got to keep up. A lot changes in technology. So every 3 years, I think it's right about the right time frame where you go back and you look at some new content that's coming out. Kind of keeps you on your toes and sharp. So that being said, let's now get into some pro tips that I have for you guys. Very, very exciting stuff. So here's my strong suggestion to you guys that are getting into IT. You should look into alternatives to a college degree. What do I mean by that? Either look into Coursera.org or Udacity.com. Let's now go ahead and look at Coursera.org. Couple of things. First of all, to join, it's completely free. You just go to Coursera.org and you create a free account. They collaborated with over 200 universities and companies. That includes Duke University, Stanford, Penn, or the Wharton School of Business. Also, companies like Google and IBM. Really awesome stuff. And what do you actually achieve with Coursera? You learn the latest skills. You get ready for your career. They have high demand content like artificial intelligence and cloud computing. You can get yourself a certificate or even a degree. So it's a really, really cool thing that you can get a degree from a very reputable university for a fraction of a cost compared to going to a regular school. You don't need to go to a brick and mortar school. See, that's the world we live in today, right? Things have changed. You can get your education from your home, from the comfort of your home, and get world-class education from top-notch universities for a fraction of a cost. That's the beauty of it. And this also helps you upskill your organization, right? So if you have people in your company, you want to upskill them, you can send them to Coursera.org to go ahead and learn new skills. Really cool stuff. Also, another thing I want you to keep in mind is They did a survey back in 2019, Coursera. And what they found out was 87% of the people learning for professional development reported some sort of career benefit directly attached as an outcome of that education on Coursera, either in the form of a promotion, or they got a raise, or they had the opportunity to start a brand new career. That, to me, guys, is very, very exciting. This is awesome. And I think, if anything, COVID-19 reminds us of how vulnerable we are as human beings in general, right? And especially from a career perspective, you always have to be a step ahead of the game. Always be ready for the next big thing in case you end up finding yourself in a situation where your employer has to let you go, or if your employer actually has to shut their doors, right? You're seeing so many companies completely going out of business during COVID-19. So that's a reminder for us that we always need to be one step ahead in life. That being said, now let's look at the alternative to Coursera. It's called Udacity. This is another very powerful website that you can go to get a bunch of degrees. They, as a matter of fact, offer what they call a nano degree, and they have multiple nano degrees in different disciplines, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Some of the job-ready skills you get, you actually get a lot of hands-on experience. You get a lot of job-focused content, so you basically end up building a portfolio that can actually help you. So especially if you're learning like coding and things of that nature, like software development and stuff, you can build a portfolio that you can showcase to your potential employers in the future, or your potential candidates. If you want to be a freelancer, you can just kind of demonstrate your portfolio to your potential clients or customers. Okay, a couple of different areas where you can get a nano degree is data science, programming, artificial intelligence, business, autonomous vehicles, cloud computing. I mean, they have really exciting curriculum. And I really like their mantra: don't waste your very valuable time or money. You know, just come here. You get real employable skills. It's project-based active learning. It's not passive learning. They give you projects. You learn on your schedule. It's completely self-paced. And you also get some help from experts that are available to you if you get stuck in your studying. So to me, it's a no-brainer. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it's $3.99 a month, I believe, if you want to go ahead and sign up for their certifications. Now, it may sound expensive, but guys, $3.99 a month is dirt cheap, for God's sakes, right? Contrast that to the university costs you're looking at, right? Average debt of $71,000 that you're going to have to incur minimum. Now, let's shift our attention to what should you do. So this is what my strong recommendation is for you. If you're at the crossroads in life, you just finished high school or you're about to make a career change and you're thinking, what should you do? And you're really excited about getting into IT. Tip number 1, don't go to a traditional college. Instead, tip number 2, go get a bunch of IT certifications. Maybe just start off with one, CCNA, for example. It doesn't have to be CCNA, but I'm using it as an example because in networking, that's a foundational certification that has a lot of value to it. But if you have interest in software development, go do the equivalent of that cert in software development. Third, get a degree from Coursera or Udacity. Okay, so this way, if you feel like, well, I still want to get a degree because, I think, I want to get it for whatever reason, you can. You don't have to follow the traditional path anymore, right? I mean, hopefully you guys got the idea today, right? That you don't have to follow the traditional path. That's all I'm trying to say. The world we live in today, you have the opportunity and the ability to go ahead and choose a non-traditional path to your success. And you end up saving a lot of money, and you're going to become a better expert And I love the idea of nano degrees, for example, from Udacity, right? Their degrees are anywhere from 6 to 9 months. So you can get multiple different degrees if you wanted to. Think about how valuable would that be? You do a degree, for example, in machine learning, and then you do another degree in artificial intelligence, right? In a matter of, a year and a half or to 2 years. To me, it's mind-boggling. Right? Contrast that to 4+ years of going to college where most of the classes are generic, right? They're general classes. That's it. I'm going to get off my soapbox and that's a wrap. I hope you guys got a lot of value out of today's video. If you did, do me a favor, give me a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.